I've been asking myself this question. We know Christianity developed from using the Old Testament, potentially other sources, such as Greco-Roman ones, if you take Dennis R. MacDonald to the bank. However, I look at Islam and I see that they have a Quran, they have a Hadith, they have traditions and things like this, the Sunnah, the Surahs, the whole nine. And I wonder, where did they develop this text? Is it potentially from the Christian and the Jewish backgrounds, the people that were in the area? Did they pick up these stories from them and utilize them into their text? If so, how miraculous is this? Dr. Shady Nasser joins me today to point out from a critical scholarly standpoint what he has found while researching this topic. Ladies and gentlemen, join MythVision's Patreon not only to support us, but there are 72 videos that I did with Dr. Dennis R. MacDonald and Richard Carrier, all on the Patreon, early access. You guys can ask personal questions when I go to interview these scholars, and you're helping MythVision grow. And so this is interesting to ask because as a scholar that has read this, you understand it in its actual language in Arabic, correct? Mm-hmm. So this is a big red flag. I can't even approach some of my Muslim friends without them saying to me, you don't know the language, therefore you don't even comment. You don't know what anything, you're not allowed to pretty much in their head because you don't have the language, and you do. And here's my question. This goes into my biblical studies, but I want to make it relate. I have been told, and I could be mistaken, that the Quran actually is using other sources to develop its surahs. In the Quran, we have good indications that they knew of, for example, they knew infancy narratives of Jesus. They knew these narratives, and they saw those narratives in high esteem versus Orthodox Christianity, which they don't even like the Trinity. It's obvious. So they're like, no, that's pagan. That's Trinity. That's not monotheism. We have one God. But they also like this infancy narrative. So my common sense tells me they're reading literature and somehow incorporating Jewish and Christian ideas, and probably not just Jewish and Christian ideas, potentially even some of the Arab, cultural, religious significances. So you have a hybrid of like three or maybe more. Going on in the development of what we see in the text. And is this true from your understanding that it's using sources from other literature?
Again, I mean, sure, you can use it if you don't believe in the tradition. You can say, this person, and there are other scholars, who really think that, Muhammad was going to a cave and, he was copying down material, right? From and the Quran itself says that, right? Even so, there are people now who are saying, he was plagiarizing.
Well, I'm not saying plagiarism because that's I'm very careful.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is that it's an influence. So like, sometimes people will utilize, like in Genesis, we see about the Garden of Eden, and we go into the Noah's flood. Well, I've been studying this for a while, and I see intertextuality where they're using Mesopotamian Epic of Gilgamesh narratives, and they're rewriting it in a way for their own narrative, but they are using it as a for their imagination to their own context. And I wonder if the Quran is doing the same thing with earlier manuscripts.
I mean, it is doing so. It's doing the same thing, whether it's manuscript or not. We can get to this, whether this information was circulating among people, or whether it was just information in manuscripts and people were reading them and recycling them, right? And the point I was making is that the text itself, this, if you want, accusation, it was directed at Muhammad. They're saying, okay, well, you are using, it says in the Quran that all this that you are doing, all the stories that you are telling us, you are actually writing it down. You are taking it from other sources. So it's not so people back then they were also atheists back then and unbelievers. It's not just It's not like people were always, everyone believed in Muhammad. No, there were people who didn't believe in him. And they were saying that you are a false prophet. And, the Quran is plagiarized from other sources. The Quran itself says that, right?
In the Quran, it says this.
Yes, sure. On multiple occasions, not only once. And then the Quran responds, no, it is not. It is a revelation from God. Right?
So you have two different ideas here that I think are interesting, because in the New Testament, there's a book, 2 Peter, where it says the author is pretending to be Peter, and it's a forgery. And he says, brethren, these are not cleverly devised myths, as some would suppose. Now, he's encouraging the brethren,
right?
But we scholars approach this and say, hold on. That means people are accusing this whole movement as a myth, that it's been created and it's not really actually true, as you want to suppose. And I think that's interesting, because for me, when you have accusations like that, those are good for us to see right out the gate. You already have people who are going, come on.
Yeah. I mean, even back then. So people shouldn't assume that it's only because of the 20th century modern, science or thought or atheism. Now we have new insights into what was happening 1400 years ago. No, people 1400 years ago, they were also skeptical about, supernatural, if you want, or metaphysical aspects.
I'm sorry to ask this. I don't want to lose track of where we're going.
Sure,
Does Muhammad kill some of these skeptics? According to the text?
I mean, you mean as a command, just like, you said this and I'm going to issue a...
Well, no, I mean, just in general, because I've heard, and I want to try and represent Islam accurately from a scholar, because there are a lot of people out there, I want to give benefit of the doubt, that will talk down, right? They just, the prophet was a murderer, he was this, he was that. And it's like, hold on, guys. Like, I get it. That was in a time we don't live in. And things were not as pretty as they are today. But I've heard that people who opposed him, who, like this, for example, said, no, this is not from God. You guys are plagiarizing. You're not a prophet of God. This is not true, blah, blah, blah. Did he potentially take these people out as a political kind of power struggle? And he's saying...
They were fighting, right? So it's not... They were not living in the, in the United States, where, you can go and criticize someone and then, okay, fine, you criticize me, I criticize you, and then it's a different setting, right?
So bad analogy then.
And also those people who were accusing him, they were not just, sitting and accusing him and not doing and taking forceful actions. They were both factions. They were fighting, right? So it's a fight for survival. So
thank you
they
for
were fighting him.
That. I wanted to clarify that, because there's a lot of people who want to use that as a tool to just bash Islam. And it's like, well, sure, you could go to other things to try and do that, but you don't have to go to this example and just act like he just murdered everyone that disagreed with him and he just wanted to do bad. I'm saying that. Now, if he's a prophet for all time, I have my problems with that.
No, I understand the point, and people are, in my opinion, that's not, again, a scholarly opinion, just my own personal, no one should quote me on this. It's that if people, don't like, how this person set, himself as an example, they shouldn't be liking that, right? Exactly. So it is what it is. And if they don't like the fact that, this person, okay, he committed, murder, or he killed his opponents, it is what it is, right? So it happened, and it happened in a sense that he was not just sitting and then issuing a fatwa, say, go kill this person because he said, these bad things about me. It was, people were fighting back then. So, and if they did not fight back, Islam as a movement wouldn't have, we were talking about the apostasy wars, Muhammad died, and then there are many tribes who pretended to be Muslims because of, economical or political incentives. They only converted outwardly. They didn't really convert. Once Muhammad died, okay, they said he died. Now we can go back to our business. And then the first caliph, they started the apostasy wars, and then they went and fought. So it was, 1400 years ago, it was a different setting from now, and people were fighting. Now, people are not comfortable with that. I think it's their own, choice. They like this or they don't like it. It's not my call to interpret or reinterpret, but from a historical perspective, I would say that people were fighting, for survival. So if someone is criticizing him, they were not just sitting and writing, a column in the New Yorker, criticizing him. They were also fighting each other in a military aspect.
You could understand my concern and why I brought that up, because
Sure.
There's a lot of people who just want to bash Islam, and there's a lot of people who want to protect. And it's like, hold on, there's probably a gray area here and something in between. Ladies and gentlemen, join MythVision's Patreon, not only to support us, but there are 72 videos that I did with Dr. Dennis R. McDonald and Richard Carrier, all on the Patreon, early access. You guys can ask personal questions when I go to interview these scholars, and you're helping MythVision grow.